Have you here? We are talking mules and donkeys in 2020, December 2nd, and Steve's coming live to us from, where's that place you said you was at?
Tucson, Arizona.
Tucson, Arizona. So if anybody up there in Tucson, Arizona sees a guy driving around in a white Dodge Ram truck, wave, because it's Steve Edwards saying hello. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Actually, I'm not in my Dodge. I'm in my wife's little, it's a Honda.
Honda, yeah.
Got my granddaughter up here where I was showing her where I was up at the Grand Canyon. I was showing her where the mule barn was and all the mules and stuff. And she's from Michigan, so she's getting a chance to see some different parts of Arizona. So Tucson is actually the gateway to the Grand Canyon.
Awesome. Now, did she get to see any saguaro cactus, palm trees, things like that?
Oh yeah. She definitely see saguaro cactuses right out her bedroom door there, for sure. And palm trees. I don't know if she's seen any palm trees or not. Do you know why they have palm trees in Arizona?
I don't know why they have palm trees in Arizona. Why do they?
All right. The ranchers, when they knew where a spring was that was producing water, they planted a palm tree on it because a palm tree was extremely green and it didn't require a lot of water. So if a person that was traveling through that country was looking for water, you could see a green palm tree sticking out on the side of a mountain 3 or 4 miles away. And like on one part of one of the ranches that I had at Black Canyon City, there was palm trees on every spring.
I like that. I never knew that. Now I'll know it. I'll teach it to my kids. They'll pass it on. Legacy has just been created right here. Folks, we want to help you create an amazing legacy with your animal, with you and your family and all of those who get to do this equine journey with you. So that's why we come and we broadcast every single week at 3 o'clock Arizona time, and we're grateful that you're here. Matter of fact, if you are here, go ahead, put your name, where you're watching from, and what the weather's like in the comment section, and just let us know that you're spending the next few minutes with us, whether you can stay the whole hour or whether you're just here for a couple. We want to make sure to say hello, and our first person to say hello today is Eileen, coming to us from 32 degrees in Nebraska. Sounds a little bit chilly. Are you snowing yet, Eileen? Is it snowing yet there? I'd imagine it is. So put your name, where you're watching from, what the weather's like. Herman is watching from sunny Arizona. I can confirm that Herman is correct. Arizona is sunny today. How is it up there in your Tucson, Arizona area?
Right now, we got a lot of blue sky, and I'm seeing just to the north of me, to the north, some pretty good clouds building up. I even saw a little bit of snow coming from Flagstaff to Tucson.
So good news, Steve's coming out with a brand new iPhone and Google app. It's called Steve Gives You the Weather. And it's him driving around the United States, basically with his cell phone, saying, hey, it's clear right now, but I see some clouds coming in. So look for that app in 2021. Jennifer's watching, 39 degrees in Horseshoe Bend, Idaho. Roger's watching in Milan, New York. We've got Laura watching. Snowstorm here in, guess where? Ontario, Canada. We've gone international, 28 degrees there. Eileen says no snow yet. So I guess it depends on what type of a person you are, if that's good news or bad news. But I've got good news for our first question of the day. We're going to get it answered. John, this one is for you. Steve, John sends a message. He says, okay, a little bit of history. I got 2 powerful draft mules a couple years ago, bought a couple saddles from you. One works fine on the mule, or the saddle works fine on one mule. The other one has a very short back, it seems to me. And she was unhappy with it, bucked out 2 excellent riders in a few seconds. So I tried my A-fork saddle with J.J. Croft built for me long time ago, which did fit all horses I ride for years. I also have the breeching I bought from you. Everything looked fine, very easily handy. Mule looked happy with it. 1 week later, same saddle, same place, no other people, noise different. The mule bucked me off and from standstill for no apparent reason. Let's try and get out off the round pen. Buck me off again. The mule didn't manifest anything that day, just like rolling eyes or nervous or shaking botters, very calm. Neither trainer nor I understand the reason of that, so it's either a special character or the saddle fit is hurting her. I don't know. I'm quite lost, and this manner is too unpredictable and dangerous. To be brief, one day she is great, the next it's all different. On the ground, she's very good. Do you have any suggestions? Steve, we love questions like this. Go ahead and talk through what John might be experiencing here.
Okay, number one, folks, don't get back on. Once one bucks, there's something going on, all right? And it's really important you understand. Now, number one, my bars are only 19 inches long. The bar that's on your slick fork is 21 inches long. So it's automatically too long, and it's going to be, if it's anything at all, it's going to be beaten on the scapula. So you've created more of a problem using that slick fork saddle because the bars are longer. That's the unique thing about my saddle. A 19-inch bar, I can fit a short coupled animal or a long animal. Now, the other thing with your slick fork, if you notice the back of your saddle is sewed solid, and that puts pressure upon the spine at the hip. Another reason that my saddles are different. Now, another reason, my saddles carry 4 nylon latigos all the way around, so that you can easily dispense the amount of communication on the mule bars, on my bars, at each point, all 4 points. Your saddle, the slick fork saddle, it has billets on it on the right front, right rear, and left rear. And the rear cinch is always narrower. Here's the downside. That slick fork saddle, you have to over tighten that front cinch in order to get it to work. So let's go back. My thing is, I'm thinking what usually happens, and there again, send me a picture of your mule with my saddle on it, just the way you got it rigged up. Send me a picture, all right? And then you'll see. The thing about my saddle is my rigging plates are closer together, so that they don't put pressure on a 6th and 7th rib. The rear cinch is at the sweet spot, right on his belly, so that it doesn't create the cantilever. What happens with most cowboys is they over tighten the front cinch. It bangs on the scapula, and a lot of people, most cowboys are horse riders, so they don't understand tighten the rear cinch. I can't tell you how many people I have every week that say, "Oh, I don't want to tighten that rear cinch, he'll buck." Well, wait a minute. Why does every Western saddle have 2 D-rings? So the second one, it's supposed to be a bucking strap? No, it's to balance, evenly balance. And get that in your mind. Evenly balance that saddle. You only tighten that front cinch, that back of the saddle is going to come up, it's going to cantilever, and it's going to bang in there. Now, my first thought is the front cinch is over tight. And because of that, it then pushes into the scapula. And your Belgian mules have big, heavy scapulas because they're draft animals. So that big, heavy scapula, it's really easy to bang into that saddle, that scapula. Now, I'm not sure if he's using my pads or not, but we might want to ask that question, because a lot of people like to use those wool pads. Well, those wool pads don't allow the saddle to sit correctly. Those wool pads have, they're all the same thickness all the way across. So it allows the saddle to move a lot.
Yeah.
If you go on my YouTubes, or even on my website where I talk about pads, you can see them using a wool pad, and you can see him hold on to the wool pad, and he pushes the saddle right off. then we see it putting my pad down, pushes the saddle, and you see he has a super difficult time pushing it off. That's because the saddle has Duracron. The pad has Duracron on the top and an imitation wool on the saddle that creates like a Velcro type thing. So, said all that to say this. Now we've created a problem because now that we've used a horse saddle on it, i.e. the slick fork, that horse saddle has a twist on the 6th and 7th rib. And that horse saddle, when you tighten it up, it pushes on that 6th and 7th rib, that fat pocket. Now, here's the scapula. Then there's an area that's kind of sunk down. And then there's the fat pocket. That's right where your D-ring hangs on your horse saddles. And when you over tighten that, you got a good chance of knocking out the 6th and 7th rib. Now, said all that to say this. What do? We don't get back on. Folks, look, if you get bucked off, don't go putting the cowboy on there. Don't go thinking, well, all he needs to be done is ridden. He doesn't need to be ridden. He's trying to tell you, I've got a problem. Mules it's just a worthless deal to try to buck. It's too much work for him. So what would I do? Number one, I would get the teeth floated. Make sure the TMJs are not hanging up. Because here's the thing. If the saddle hits the scapula, the mule will drop his head. When he drops his head, the TMJs hang up, and it scares him, and he goes to bucking. All right? Now, that's just one part. As you can see, Dave, there's no short way to do this. So let's go on. All right. So here's the next thing. Take your mule and get it to a good chiropractor and ask them to especially look at the left shoulder. Because what happens is, on these horse saddles, the way they tip, they tend to bang on that left shoulder. So then the chiropractor will work on it. Chiropractor says everything is okay. The next thing I would do is take your mule to a veterinarian and have them x-ray the scapula. You remember, Dave, what's his name in Texas that had the mule that kept bucking him off?
Yeah.
Had that cauliflower.
Dale, was it Dale?
Dale.
Yeah.
Yes. And you see, he finally got a veterinarian to do an x-ray, and there it was. Right there on the scapula was a cauliflower place that had formed up, and because of the horse saddle banging on it. Now, you got to remember this, folks, that my saddle's not going to fix everybody's horse saddle that was here to start with, because the majority of folks try to put semi-quarter horse or full quarter horse bars on. I was talking with a guy in California last night, and he was saying how he wanted to get a wider saddle for his mule because of the way his scapula was, or his back was. And I said, no, if you do that, you're going to get too wide, and you'll be set directly up on top of fat pockets. As it is, the way my saddles are made with the curvature stuff, we take a lot of pressure off of that fat pocket. So that's what I would do. The dentist first, the chiropractor second, and the veterinarian third. Make sure, folks, your mule's wanting to buck. Get pictures of that scapula. Look it over. I had a guy contact me the other day, said he wanted to buy a particular mule, and he sent me pictures to look at it. And here it is, folks. There was no breeching, had a breast collar, and no rear cinch. The saddle was sitting on top of the scapula. And he said, man, the mule looked so good. There was a young girl, and that's the deal, folks. They like to use kids and young girls. Anyway, the young girl was riding around. The mule really looked good and was going over things on the ground, going things in the saddle. But I said, here's the problem. There's no rear cinch. There's no breeching. And you may not have a problem now. And get this in your mind, folks. It doesn't just happen now. He was saying the mule wasn't showing any signs of pain. That's the problem. These mules are stoic. they will brace into pain until they've had no more, and then they're going to buck you off, or take off running. So going back to this, get the veterinarian to shoot a picture of that scapula, right and left side, have the chiropractor work it out, and have the dental work get done. Once you get all that under control, you're good. But remember, let's go back. I've got a 19-inch bar in my saddle. All other horse saddles are going to be longer. So therefore, if you got a short couple mule, your saddle's going to be on the scapula. Good reason for the mule to buck.
So a couple big takeaways that I heard from you there, in addition to the dental work, the chiropractor, etc., is number one, if the mule is bucking, don't get back up on it. Like, they're communicating that something is wrong. And you saying that they're stoic, in my mind, I'm making the equation that they're stoic. They might not be, they're bucking, they're showing you something's wrong, but if you don't take that as them showing something's wrong, you get back up there, everything's fine. You could actually be abusing the mule because they're not going to show it. We often look for abuse. We often look for mistreatment of animals to be something that's external, when the truth is that we might be doing that internally and not even know it. So don't ride again because they're trying to communicate with you. Number two, bucking could really be a host of different reasons. And starting with the dental work, starting with the chiropractor is just good basic practice. But then going beyond that, get some feedback on how things are tacked up. Make sure that you've got 2 cinches. Make sure that the front and the rear cinch are in the correct places, right, Steve? Because it could be a number of different things. Bottom line, he's trying to tell you something.
Absolutely. And I get a kick out of people all the time. They say my come-along rope is abusive. Well, wait a minute. You're using a rope, you're using a nylon halter with a chain. That's abusive. And here's the downside, Dave, is most shows, horses and mule shows, require a chain in our halter classes. And especially if they are studs, they require chains. Now, to me, there's abuse, but let's go back. Okay, we rather than get back on, let's find out why. It's like a bridle. People say, well, he's ear shy. I had a guy call me today, had an ear shy mule. I asked him what kind of bridle. He said one of his horse bridles. Folks, that's a 16-inch brow band that goes around the front. 16 inches. That means you're putting pressure upon the ears. To me, Dave, that's abuse. But a lot of people can't see it. Let's go back. What else was he doing? He was putting the same bridle on pre-adjusted, rather than loosening up the bridle, let the mule pick up the bit and pack it, get it set on his head, then adjust it. Do not put on a pre-adjusted bridle every day. You want to abuse one? That's the quickest way I know to get one ear shy, to get one bit shy, and be a problem. Folks, there's a lot of ways to abuse them, and believe me, I hate to say this, but I have screwed up a lot of mules because I had no knowledge. I didn't know where to go. I talked to people, and they kept saying, "Don't ride a mule, ride a horse." Well, I wanted to know. That's a super intelligent animal coming from a great donkey. So going back, I learned by school of hard knocks. I learned by getting 32 broken bones and 2 replaced hips. And that's why I'm here, Dave, trying to help people and trying to help this guy through this bucking problem. Don't go on. Don't do that.
Last thing we want to take care of the mules. We want to take care of the donkeys. Most importantly, we want to take care of people. And so that's why we show up every single week, to make sure that y'all have the tools or resources you need. It's never going to be safe, but you can be prepared when you go in and get on. Steve, let's keep going here. Let's say hello to Linda. the mule servant, and Theo, the sweet and fuzzy one-eyed mule in snowy rural central Ohio. Hello to you guys. James watching from Holden, Missouri. It's cloudy and 43 degrees. Jack is watching from Johannesburg. Last week, the farrier pulled my mule's shoes for the winter. 35 and windy. Y'all going to be riding? Make sure you have those shoes on. You're going to be putting them up for the winter. It's okay to pull those shoes off, but just make sure, right, Steve, to clean the feet. You don't want to get a whole bunch of mud and snow and everything packed up in there, but it's okay for them to have the shoes off during the winter if you're not riding, yes?
Absolutely. It is okay, but here's the thing, folks. It's really easy to get mud and snow packed up in there, all right? Now, when you're riding with winter shoes, they're going to be winter shoes. So they're going to have ice clogs on them, or they're going to have borium on them. It's not going to be your average shoe, so that when it hits ice, it won't slide. Now, here's the main thing. This is really important when you're winterizing your mules and your donkeys, and especially a donkey. Trim the feet as short as possible, okay? Now, yes, they may bleed a little bit. That happens because the bloodline does come down the longer the foot. But the shorter the sole, the shorter the hoof, the less you're going to have packed up in there. My favorite thing to tell folks, always have a clean, dry place for your mule or donkey to stand. They don't have to be in a barn, okay? But a clean, dry place where they can get in and out of the mud. That is imperative. Imperative.
Awesome. Winterizing. We're going to have to talk more about that in the future. Let's keep going here. We've got Susan watching. Western Pennsylvania, 8 inches of snow yesterday. Enjoy the snow, but stay safe when you're out on the roads. Polly is watching. We've got Roger watching. And Roger asks, what are your thoughts on hoof boots? So what are hoof boots, and what are your thoughts on them?
Well, they're basically a rubber or a beta, and they slide over top of the hoof, and then there's a clamp that clamps over, and people put those on thinking it's better than shoes, and it is not. It's the quickest way to bow the tendons on your mule. Folks, listen, I know a lot of folks say they didn't want to put shoes on the mules and put the nails on. Ain't no big deal. That hoof grows all the time. And with a boot on, and here's the worst thing, Dave, that people don't understand. With a boot on, the frog cannot work. What's a frog for? The frog is to pump the blood up and down the leg. When you put a boot on, the frog cannot work properly. Can't do it, you know. And so it's imperative that you ride that mule with shoes, or if you're going to trim it for the winter, then trim it short enough. The main thing is, folks, that frog has to have blood go up and down the leg. Now, here's the next thing. The downside about these boots is, folks, the biggest thing with mules and donkeys is they get contracted heels extremely easy. Contracted heels means the back of the heel, instead of being straight, one side can come in or both sides can come in. And the downside of that is it puts pressure upon the frog. When it puts pressure upon the frog, then it makes the frog smaller. And what happens then? We don't have the blood flow. So see, folks, you may be fixing one thing, but you got 10 other problems that you created. Listen, you can't get away from good old-fashioned common sense. Shoes have been around for centuries. I have put them on my mules all my life, you know, and shod my own horses and things like this. Only time I had a problem was when I had a barefoot animal, where I throw the shoe back in the mountains or something like that. I've seen people who try to only just trim their mules naturally, they call it, okay, and end up with crippled mules. Those feet contract. Now, get this in your mind, folks. The worst hoof in the world is a donkey hoof. And the downside is that donkey hoof transfers right into the mule. That's where we get the contracted heel. Instead of some mules needing a number one shoe, they've got an ox shoe. Okay, and that's a lot because we put too small of a shoe on these animals. Farriers don't know, but there it is, folks. Get away from anything that's not, quote, the natural. There's nothing wrong with shoes. Do not put boots on your mules unless you want them crippled. Easiest way to get a bow tendon, easiest way not to get blood flying up and down the leg, easiest way for the mule to stumble and fall.
And the thing to note about that is they're not going to show it to you. You're going to have to notice it. You're going to have to find it. You're going to have to see it. And there's a lot of folks out there who they don't know to look for these things. And so they may be looking at 5 things saying, oh, you should be doing this, oh, you should be doing that, when underneath it all, there's about 50 things that could be going wrong. You got to know to look for it, and that's why we do this. We love bringing everything we can to the table here. I learn every single week. Steve continues to learn. He continues to learn from his clients. We just released the Heritage saddle and the Extreme Ultralight saddle, and the process that went into creating the Steve, I just lost my train of thought. The tree and the design. Steve had multiple sessions, multiple people taking a look at it. It's not just sit up. This is what we decide. This is what we do. This is how you're supposed to do it. It is a lifelong lessons learned, applied, and continued learning. So we're glad that we get to talk about these things. We've got Polly. So Polly is watching from Barnesville, Minnesota. Thank you, Polly. Horsey Girl is watching. Julie from Kentucky, 40 degrees and sunny. Hey, Captain's here. Richard Matthews. Good afternoon, Chaplain Steve and Dave. Howdy there, Captain. Appreciate that. Levi's watching. Says, hey, Steve, it's about 10 degrees Celsius here in Albert Country, New Brunswick, Canada. We've gone international again. Good to have you here, Levi. David is watching from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, 47 degrees and cloudy. Jim in Alabama, 55 and sunny. I'm sure you're taking that, Jim, and enjoying it. Trinity is watching, northern Wyoming, blue sky, 30 degrees, ready for a good ride with this forecasted high of 55. And if you all missed it, Steve's going to be coming out with a brand new Android and iPhone weather app. It's just Steve driving across the country in his truck with an iPhone recording what he sees. So make sure you download that when it comes out. Dun-dun. There's a little joke for you.
Okay.
Steve sounds like he's on board for that idea. Let's see here. Hey, good day. Faye is joining us from the land down under. Good to have you here. We've gone international again. Myra's watching. Hello from Southern California. Cold nights, warm days. Glad to report better trust and communication with Gracie. Gracie's her mule, so we want to make sure everybody knows that. It took more slower and smaller training sessions, which is what we advocate for, so I'm glad that worked for you. I've had to put my timeline expectations aside. Man, if that isn't the truest statement. Very happy to have your foundation training info and equipment on hand and at the ready for the next step. We love it. Trace says, good day, Steve, from Lowood, Queensland, Australia. Trinity asked the question, can you explain your Arizona pack cinches and how they work? So give people context maybe of what they need to know before you explain how the pack cinch works, Steve.
Okay, so here's the thing. Way before I started riding mules, I packed mules. So I would take a sawbuck saddle, put it on the mule's back, put pack bags on or boxes or hay, things like that, and I would pack them up the side of the mountain. Now, there's where I differ, Dave, from everybody else. My trees on my saddle are nothing like anybody else's trees. I just was talking to a guy. He said he wanted a mule saddle. And I said, partner, I can't help you. I don't have mule saddles. I only have Steve Edwards saddles. And, of course, that always sets everybody back. He said, well, what do you mean? I thought you had mule saddles. I said, well, I'm not like everybody else. My saddles are what I designed. I just didn't put a tree up there and say it works. No, I pack freight. Now, going back to the packing, each saddle of a sawbuck saddle has 2 D rings, one on the right, one on the left. So on the near D ring, a near side, which is the left side, it has rings. The off side, which is the right side, it has rings. Now, normally you take and you put a tie strap on each one of those rings and tie the cinches off on the right hand side, and then you bring them up and you use the tie strings and you tie it on the left hand side. What my Arizona cinch does, it doesn't have any way to tie it. It has buckles. So I have a long cinch that's approximately it's 21 inches long. 24 inches long, and it has buckles on the cinch on the front and on the rear, and it has side rings. And then there are beta straps on snaps. Those beta straps go through the buckles on the right and on the left sides. And then rather than have to pull the cinch up and tie it off, that means you have to pull your load off or try to get your pack outfit up to get underneath there to retie, because what happens is, and everybody knows that, going down the trail, as you're going down the trail, the cinches do loosen up, and so will your pack outfit, and so it moves right left. So to easily tighten the cinches, you just simply reach underneath the animal, pull on each strap right and left, and your buckles are there. Put your tongue in the hole and the buckles, and it's done. You don't have to undo your pack outfit. You don't have to tie one. It's done. Now, Dave, that reminds me, we need to put that on the new website, a demonstration on how that thing works.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just a new website, Dave?
Yep. The plan is to launch it tonight. So if everything goes according to plan, y'all will have an email in your inbox in the morning to check it out. It's gonna be fantastic. I want to hop to another question here. This one comes in from Connie. She's got a couple young mules, and she's talking a lot about halters. She says, I'm glad you're explaining the proper use in rope halters. I've never understood it. Rowdy will load when the trailer is parked in the field, but he won't load if I ask him. And even on Trank, her other one, it's still a fight. He will go the way until the back hooves are against the trailer, but he won't pick up his back hooves. Then he goes backwards and pulls away. He's too strong for me to hold, and he's so strong if I use the trailer bar, I'm scared he's going to thrash and hurt himself. My question is, I do have a rope halter, so I begin to use the halter right away, even though I have never used one. Should I do lessons with it on him first, or just use it to load and make him uncomfortable with ask, tell, demand? Without Trank, he's really naughty. He will back up and rear up, but that also is, again, with a leather halter. Do you trailer with rope halter? I always thought they were dangerous. So what would you say here for this behavior that Connie is experiencing?
Now, Dave, I know people look at things a little bit more different than I do, but as far as I'm concerned, a leather halter is abuse. The mule can pull back on it, it can drag you, it can hurt themselves, because the leather halter does not have the knots in the correct place to properly connect to the animal. You know what my idea of abuse is? Pulling on a mule, pulling on the donkey, pulling on it. Listen, folks, I would rather have you beat one than I would pull on them, because what that does is it teaches them a lot of bad habits. Now, number one, now that I've got that out of the way, the tool is extremely important, but here's the thing. Did you hear what he said? Rowdy, the one mule does good when the other one's around. So guess what? That other one is the leader, and what's her name? What's the lady's name?
Connie,
the mules don't recognize you as leader. They don't. They don't reckon. Why should they follow you in a trailer? They do it on their own. So they're thinking, wait a minute, Connie, you're not a leader. You're not showing leadership. Listen, folks, leadership is this: asking, telling, demanding, comfortable, uncomfortable. Where do you get that? Where? You get that from the lead horse, the head horse. She pins her ears. She said, I'm telling you, don't do that again. She pins her ears. She swishes her tail. She says, I'm telling you, don't do that again. Then what happens? She spins and kicks. You cannot withstand a kick. I cannot withstand a kick. And I cannot withstand a bite. So you see, abuse to me is when you're creating those problems. This mule says, Connie, you are not the herd leader. So you need to develop that. Now, we know that by a couple things that Connie said. One, the mule will go in without Connie there. Two, the mule is really naughty when, or bad, or whatever you want to say, when the other mule ain't around. So you are an animal that this mule, is a prey animal, okay? And you're a mountain lion. And so it's hard for the two to get together. It's really, really important that you understand that you need to show leadership. Anybody that has a mule or a donkey, they are self-preservation. That's what they are. They're self-preservation. And if they feel that you're not a good leader, why should they follow you? That's what's happening. So let's go back. What would I do? Look, folks, the rope halter needs to be used all the time. No mule, no donkey owner, as far as I'm concerned, and I'm talking to you with 50-some years experience, no mule, no donkey person should ever have anything that's leather or nylon that goes on a mule's head. You cannot properly communicate. Why is that? The mule gets its sensitivity on the nose, on the head from the donkey. And what do you all see of pictures all the time? You see pictures of the donkey sitting down and somebody pulling on it. Well, wait a minute. Why is that? Because the donkey don't want to be pulled on. The donkey's going to sit down. I've even seen them lay down and say, don't pull on me. And folks, if it hadn't happened to you yet, it will. Sooner or later, that donkey's going to say, I don't trust you. I'm a prey animal, and I don't trust you, and I'll just lay down. I've had them just lay right down and sit down. So let's go back. Where would I start? I start with my come-along hitch. You ask the people out there that are using that now, that have got my ground communication kit. The come-along kit, folks, does the natural way. You're a predator. You're a mountain lion. And if you don't show them that you also can be a prey animal and show leadership, they will do what they're going to do. So I would do the come-along hitch, get the ground communication kit. Everybody out there with a mule and donkey, folks, I'm going to tell you, if you're not riding them, do your groundwork. It's not important to ride. You can learn more on the ground. You can get the feel with your hands with that rope halter. You can get that feel. You can develop it. I can't tell you how many people I see on the internet riding mules that are holding on to them really tight, and they wonder why they run off. I had a lady call me today. She says, I bought the mule from a guy who was supposed to be a mule expert, and he told me I should ride this mule in a snaffle bit. She said, I rode the mule when I bought the mule in Missouri, but now I went to ride it out here by myself, and the mule took off running. And I said, all right, here's what I see happen. You were following behind the guy who sold you the mule. You never did any steering or stopping or anything. She says, well, yeah, how'd you know? I said, because that mule was relying on the front mule to take him here and there. He was not listening to you, who should be the herd leader, to go off to the right or the left. Folks, when you go to look at a mule, you have that other person do all the riding, and then you climb on the mule and you ride off. Get out of everybody's sight. You ride that mule. So let's go back, Dave. The natural way to communicate to a mule or a donkey is through their nose, and that's where that come-on hitch comes. Now, I'm not like everybody else, folks. I don't just say, here's a halter, put it on, it's going to work. I give you a video that shows a working cowboy in Montana, and you see him making mistakes, and you see how I show him how to fix the mistakes. Easy. It really is not difficult. It's a great tool. That come along hitch can get you more crisper and cleaner in your communication, and it's not hard on the mule. It's not hard on the donkey because here it communicates to the pole, the top of the nose, underneath the chin. When the mule pulls back, it hits him in the pole. When he goes to the left, it hits him in the chin. When he goes to the right, it hits him in the chin. When he goes to go forward, it hits him in the nose. Look, see, it's 4 different major areas that they understand. Now, once he starts following your lead as a leader, now we're into the comfortable, uncomfortable. They look to the herd leader to show them comfort. That herd leader will say, let's go get a drink. And everybody goes to get a drink. Herd leader says, let's go over here to eat. Everybody goes to eat. All of a sudden, a predator comes in or a new animal, new horse, that herd leader goes out and makes sure they're going to be all right, and it makes the rest of the herd feel good. Folks, you got to be the herd leader. Now, I got lengthy on that one too, Dave, because that's super important.
Mm-hmm.
Folks, you cannot have nylon halters and leather halters with a mule. When you're on a trailer, you're trailering, it is imperative you have a rope halter. And here's why. Because when the mule moves around in the trailer with a nylon halter or a leather halter, they can brace against that. They tighten all 5 major neck muscles. They get to where they can brace themselves all up. And guess what you did? You taught them how to brace. Now, when you get ready to lead them, they take off, they brace themselves, take off, and now you're mule skiing. They didn't just get it from you leading them around. They also get it when you set them in the trailer. No, in the trailer, you put a properly adjusted rope halter. Standing tied, properly adjusted rope halter. When they move in that rope halter, it is going to communicate discomfort. When they stand still and they're quiet like they should be, they're not going to get any discomfort. They're not going to get any pain. If they're standing quiet, they're standing straight, they're listening to the halter. You see, that nylon halter and that leather halter, they have no respect for it. They can brace against it. You've taught them now how to be bad to you, tighten all 5 major neck muscles, tighten the throat latch. We taught them that simply because of using that type of equipment and then using it incorrectly. Always bump, 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 and never a solid pull.
Very good. What I love is that you can learn to be the herd leader. You can learn what it takes to communicate, and it's part of the reason why we do this every week. Let's see here. We've got continuing on. Let's see.
Hey, David,
Levi. 54 degrees. I would take that. Levi, I'm not sure what he said the degrees are where he's at, but he's got draft mules on the mind. Steve, we have about 15 minutes left, and I got about 7 or 8 more questions to get through. So just so you could be mindful of time as you're answering. He wants to know, Steve, what are your opinions on draft mules for riding and mowing hay?
For mowing hay, great. For riding, you better be an awful long-legged person, because here's the problem. When you got them draft mules, your legs are going to be way out. I've had people actually have their hips put out because the animal was too wide. So if you're a small person, you don't want to be on them things. Now, I can tell you that I've got a lot of big people that are riding draft animals. Well, they're big people. They're 250, 300 pounds, and th'ey're about 6'5", 6'6", got longer legs that can probably handle it, you know. But a draft animal, they're wonderful, but the downside is get them back in the mountains, and it's hard for them to get around, you know. They are built for one reason, and that is the main reason is to pulling wagons and farm equipment and this sort of thing. That was their original mate. Now, up here at the Grand Canyon, we use a lot of Percheron mules and Belgian mules, a lot of Belgian mules especially, and they did good. So anyway, there you are. It'd be my choice.
Awesome. Next question. This one was emailed in from Rhonda. She's got a 3-week-old colt mule colt that is mounting his mother, the female mini mule he is pastured with, and started this before 2 weeks of age. I tried to ignore it. My ignorance is showing. I read that they can have complications from gelding too young, and I assume that it's because of the size of the undescended testicles that are lots larger than horses. He's cocky and independent already. I got hands on him within hours of his birth, but have not been able to do as much as I'd hope every day since my bad knee and bad back. Bright and cute. Do you use the come-along rope even on these young mules? And let's see, what do I need to do to politely ask to be sure the vet is well informed about the differences in mules and horses as to gelding? Are there differences? I want to know, how soon should I get them gelded? So give us just a real quick rundown for Rhonda there.
Okay, Dr. Robert Miller, renowned, worldwide, well-known, well-established writer of books and this sort of thing. He says when the testicles are down, we geld them right then. When them testicles are hanging down, they're mine. Now, if you don't, you're going to end up with all kinds of mega problems. You know, mounting the mom, that's a small thing. Mounting kids, that can happen. Mounting you, get that in your mind, folks. I lay everything out, don't I, Dave?
Yeah.
You got a good chance of him trying to mount you. You get him gelded right away. Castrate him, and you'll have a different animal. When you castrate him, make sure they pull the wolf teeth. And I usually by 6 months, I pull them off of their mama.
Very good. Donald sent in a message. He says, I'm looking for a Bozalles and mecate. Can you recommend a good one? How do you say that? Mecate?
No, it's mecate.
Mecate. So a Bozalles and mecate. Can you recommend a good one?
Okay, here's the deal. If you're going to use a Bozalles, your Bozal, which means, basically what it means is noseband in Spanish. It is leather, and you start out with a heavy one, and then you go to a lighter one, and then a lighter one. The mecate is basically, I like to use horsehair. They're reins is what they are. And they tie off a particular way on the bottom of the knot, and then you got one continuous rein, and then you take the extra lead rope, is what it amounts to, and you pull a loop up into your belt. So that when you do get bucked off, which can happen, then you got a chance to have the lead rope to still have the animal to get it right back home. So let's go back. I do not ever suggest anybody starting a mule out in a Bozalles. Never. Okay? It's you start out first with the come along and the rope halter and use the ground communication kit. Okay? And that's how I work them with their nose first. Then I go from there into my mule rider's martingale. Then I go in there for the first bit. Now, I can tell you, I've ridden a few mules over the years. I have had very, very few mules good enough to be in a Bozalles. Now, here's the problem, or a Bozal, okay? Here's the problem. Mules are very sensitive about their nose. And most horse riders overpull, especially a Bozal. You see, few people have the finesse to move one around. A Bozal is the final thing I would use. When my mule is riding 80% off of my legs, I will then ride a Bozalles, okay? Now, do I have them? Yeah. Do I use them? Yes. All of mine are handmade by Nick West out of Alberta, Canada. Nick has passed away now. I got most of them hanging on my wall, all handmade by him. But you got to remember, there are different stages of sizes of Bozal. And if you don't understand those stages, you'll want to be careful because you can screw up a mule and make him want to buck, want to be tough on you when you're using a Bozal. Calm me.
Thank you. Yeah,
Calm.
that's good. Okay, next question. We've got, we've got Sid watching from Fancy Gap, Virginia. We've got Roger. Sid says, love your program. We got Roger saying, always learning from Mr. Steve, coming to us all the way from Wyoming. Cindy is watching, 24 degrees in Tennessee, but it is sunny. Best way to discipline a mouthy mule, very lippy. Hasn't bitten, but I'm afraid he could. 4-year-old John.
Quit feeding treats. Okay? Usually somebody has been feeding them treats. That's usually the reason they go to mouth and nibbling. It's the very beginnings of it going to bite you. And believe me, if you ever get bitten by a horse, a mule, or a donkey, you never known pain in your life as being bit. Now let's go on. Maybe you didn't give them treats, but maybe somebody beforehand. Otherwise, this is what I would do. Number one, if that mule is mouthing you, he's too close to you. You always want to approach the mule. You can go into their space. They are not allowed to come into your space. Keep that in your mind. Now, when you've got a lead rope, you can shake the lead rope and get them back out of your place. If you don't have a lead rope and halter on them, when they come close to you, take the edge of your boot and kick them in the shin. That makes them super uncomfortable. And even before that, you can kick dirt toward them and get them to stop. You can come into their area. Folks, the people that I know that have really gotten hurt by a mule is because they allowed the mule and donkey to come into their space. Don't do that. A herd leader would never allow another animal to come into their space. They always pin their ears and shake their tail or spin and kick. You'll never see a herd leader in the natural allow another animal to come into their space.
Next question. This one comes in from, Herman. It looks like Herman sent this message. This one was messaged in on Facebook. Dave, I want to see if I can get this question answered from Steve, maybe on next week's vlog. Well, here you go, Herman. We got you. I've had my mule now for about 2 months, and I work with him daily. I've noticed the last couple times I went to halter him, he was a little shy of it, and then today he would not let me get the halter near him. I could pet him just fine, but anytime I raised the halter, he would get spooked. After about an hour of trying, I finally decided to rope him with the come-along. After he realized he was caught, I could put the halter on him and he was fine again. Not sure what I can do to get him to like the halter. Should I just leave it on him?
No, never, ever, never leave a halter on an animal. Listen, I've seen some nice animals get hung up on corrals or get their back foot where they're trying to scratch and get their back foot in there and break their neck. Never leave a halter on an animal. Never. Okay? Number one, never train every day. It's not important, folks. You train every day, they're going to wig out on you. They've had enough. Okay? 4 to 6 hours a week is plenty. 4 to 6 hours. Quality time. Sometimes 10 minutes. Sometimes it may take 10 hours. Depends on what's happening with your mule or donkey. Now, here's what happens. People come up and they say, okay, put it on your head. Here you go. Don't do that. Slide the halter nose first over your leg, over your arm, as if you're putting it on. So nose first, slide the halter to your elbow, take the part that goes over behind the ears and pull it between your finger, your pointing finger and your thumb, and hold it close to you. Take your lead rope and put it over in the front of the halter, where the halter is at your elbow, and you put the lead rope in front of that. Go up and scratch on them and rub on them, and then taking the rope and the halter, which you've got hanging on your arm, scratch and rub on them. Let them see it's a good thing. Let them see that halter is a good deal. All right, and then slide it up nice and easy. Having the rope one, yes, yeah, that happens once in a while. That's mainly because you've overdone it, overtrained. Folks, listen, here's the thing. 3, 6, 9, 12. Today I'm going to do it 3 times. Then the next time I'm going to train, I'm going to do it 6 times. Then the next time I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it 9 times. Next time I'm going to do it is 10 times, or 12 times. 3, 6, 9, 12. Don't overtrain. Here's the thing. People say, oh, I got it going really good. I'll do some more. No, no, no. Once they got it, quit. Add some more on a couple days later. If you do not have to train these mules every day, they got the donkey brains. They can think things through. The more you leave them alone between training times, and they know when it's training and when you're going to go have fun, they know that, okay? So using the come along hitch, listen, folks, you're going to use the come along hitch for 6 months everywhere you go. You do not put that halter on. It's not important. Put the halter on after, once you get to the hitching rail, then put the halter on. Later on, you can wean them off of, you can put the halter on with the come along hitch and eventually wean the come along hitch off and just use the halter. But it is a total of 6 months everywhere you go. Don't just say, oh, I'm not going to need to do it today. No, no, no. That's the day that they're going to learn the bad habit. So 6 months builds a foundation on everything: riding, driving, packing, groundwork. 6 months, 4 to 6 hours a week. You have a super intelligent animal here, and they will get it. If you do it correctly, you do your 3, 6, 9, 12. You do it correctly, by golly, they'll have it down pat.
Awesome. We've got another question here. This one's from Linda. She says, should a mule hoof look more upright like a donkey foot or angled back more like a horse hoof? People say the hoof should be the same angle as the shoulder, but I don't understand what that means.
What that means is you look at how the neck comes down into the shoulder. And this is the shoulder. If the shoulder is straight up and down, so does your hoof need to be. If the shoulder is at an angle, so does your hoof need to be. Horses, donkeys, mules, all the same. Go by the slope of the shoulder. Now, if you have to do corrective shoeing, that farrier knows how to trim, how to shoe in order for that mule to reach or to become short. That's where an experienced farrier using quality ideas knows how to do it. Otherwise, when you trim, always trim to the angle of the shoulder. Here's the shoulder. Here's the neck coming into the shoulder. So if it's straight up and down, so goes the hoof. If it's at an angle, so goes your hoof. Follow the slope of your shoulder, and you will have a quality set on your foot. Don't worry about getting a protractor out and measuring it right and left. As long as they're both balanced and they're both at the same angle, then you're going to have a quality foot, front and rear.
Rowboat Pete, he's got a question. We don't have time to go into it as in-depth as I would like for us to go into it, but I want to answer it for him. Steve, it's 2 minutes away from 4 o'clock right now. Give Rowboat Pete the, hey, we've got a few minutes left answer to this question. What is a 3-year-old mule untrained at a good price? What's a good price for an untrained 3-year-old mule?
$1,500.
All right, there we go. That's a good place to start. But Rowboat Pete, hang out with us for a while. Come back in future episodes, ask more questions. Call Steve. Get some more information there. What's that?
Three more things. $1,500. But if I'm going to buy that mule, if I'm going to buy that donkey, number 1, disposition. Number 2, confirmation. Imperative. Now look at it. If your hip is higher than the shoulder, you've got a downhill hip. That mule was not designed for trail riding. He was designed for cutting horses. That's what he was designed for. All right. So that, and then the straightness of their legs. You're going to buy a mule. $1,500 for a 3-year-old is a pretty fair deal, as long as that mule has a good disposition. He's balanced and framed up across the top, and he's straightened his legs.
Awesome. I put a link to Steve's article, So You Want to Buy a Mule, which has a link to Steve's video, So You Want to Buy a Mule. That's a good thing to get your hands on as well. Let's see here. We're going to try and cruise through the rest of these. A friend told me to get rid of a mule because he would hurt somebody. It's been another month and he has showed no other aggression. Do you think my mule has learned his lesson, or was it just play?
All right, so what was the aggression? I need to know that.
I'm trying to look here. Julie, was there any pre-story here? While you take a look at that, I'm going to keep cruising here. We've got, mule was gelded the day before. Well, okay, here, hold on. They came in kind of an odd order. Mule pulled his baby tooth out after trying to bite my husband through a fence. The mule was gelded the day before. A friend told me to get rid of the mule because he would hurt somebody. It's been another month and he has showed no other aggression. Do you think my mule learned his lesson? It was just play.
I think probably the mule was hurting, took a nip at him. It's not unusual for a mule that's just had his wolf teeth pulled and gotten gelded. It's not unusual for them to take a nip and bite. Here's what happens. The nip and bite, they're trying to be the top of the pecking order. So that's where, I don't mind hitting one in the face. If he bites me, I'm going to backhand that sucker serious. I may break my arm doing it, okay? But if one bites at me or nibbles at me, he's going to get whacked. I prefer, and he couldn't hit him any other way because it's through the crowds. I prefer kicking him in his shin. But listen, most people don't understand mules. And so I would give it time. I would do my groundwork. Listen, folks, you cannot do enough groundwork. Get the come along hitch on, watch the video, do your groundwork, and get this mule under control.
Very good. Let's see. Mark Miller's watching. Great show. I rode my ultra light saddle the other day for the first time since back surgery. It was great. We'll use it to build back up to cowboy saddle. Thanks so much. Love hearing that, Mark. Thanks for watching every week. Thanks for hanging out with us. David Pingelli is watching. If anyone's interested, Steve's ultra light saddle is terrific. Everyone who rides it loves it. A big hit with women too. My wife and I fight over it. So we hope that Steve's saddles don't cause marital problems. But it seems like this is maybe one that's understandable. Although I do know how to solve that problem. You just get a second one there. So we love you, David. Thank you so much. Naomi's watching. Hi, Steve and Dave. Naomi and Butch from Eastern Washington. It's 41 degrees and sunny. Lane is watching. Dave, 35 degrees and sunny in Central Oregon. Why does Steve feed whole oats instead of rolled oats? Steve, give me it's after 4 p.m., but we want to get this answer.
Because rolled oats are for fattening up an animal, and whole oats is for building energy. The whole oats they will burn fat, where the rolled oats will create it. You've got more energy in a whole oat than you do a rolled oat.
Awesome. We're getting close to the end here. Are you still good on time? Do we need to end pretty quick here, Steve? Or are you good?
No, we're good.
Okay.
Let's go.
We'll cruise through them. Jennifer says, question following up on shoeing. My shoer pulled my mule's shoes for the Southwest Idaho winter because of the snow balling up, and also for trimming every 5 weeks because my mule has contracted heels in the front hooves. They've improved but need more time. What do you think about going barefoot for the winter, specifically due to the contracted heels? It's been dry and we've been doing light rides on flat, sandy riverbed trails where they won't slip up.
Yeah, well, the downside of not having your shoes, it's not going to help the contraction. The contraction is going to get worse, matter of fact. If it was me, I would keep the mule shod through the winter, but I would keep the mule in a dry place. They're going to ball up, but you're not riding it when you ball them, and those balls will flip off, okay? Of course, they can freeze too. I have seen that now that I think about it. But I would, on a contracted animal, you're going to get moisture. It's going to expand, and then it's going to be dry, it's going to contract, and you're not going to get the improvement that you need with that contracted heel. So me, I would put the mule in a clean, dry place. I would keep on working on that contraction, because everything that you gained over the summer, you're going to lose this winter.
Very good. That's a great point at the very end there. That's actually what I was wondering as I read it. Will I lose progress that I've made? Yolanda's watching. Hey, Yolanda, international. Yolanda's holding down the fort in Europe over there in the Netherlands. 9 degrees, cold, foggy, rain, wind, everything. So please send some warm weather this way and we can use it. All right, we just sent it to you, Yolanda. Let us know when it arrives. Levi says, I'm about 5'11", 170 pounds. The terrain around here is pretty easy going. Thank you for the great answer. He was talking about the mammoth, riding on the mammoth there. So might be a little bit too big because that's my height, and I feel like that would be too high for me, too big for me.
Yeah, it wouldn't be too bad, really. It's just the getting on and off. That's the tough part.
There we go, Levi. Thank you. Naomi's watching. Shout out from Eastern Oregon. My question is, I have a John that's almost 3 years old that I've raised from a baby and imprinted on. He's been my buddy ever since I could touch him whenever I wanted this last year. I haven't been able to do anything with him due to a lung disease and all the bad air from the wildfires. When I go to touch him now, he pins his ears and he doesn't kick, but he does let me know that he doesn't want me to do what's going on.
Well, he's now at the top of the pecking order. And so listen, they grow until they're 7 years old, their mind and this sort of thing. But up to 3 years old is when it's imperative that you stay, that pecking order stays heavy. 3 years up to 3 years old. So I would do ground communication. I would use that come along hitch, and I would have them go in circles. I do figure eights and things like that. Yes, I understand that smoke was pretty tough, and yes, you had to lay off of them. But don't worry about it. No big deal. All you have to do is take and put the come along hitch on and start doing some training, and you'll get that communication going good. And if he pins his ears, then give him some sharp reprimands with that halter, with that come along rope. I mean sharp reprimands, and make him understand that pinning his ears is a bad deal. Remember, folks, anytime they do something incorrect, always bump on their nose. That is where it's going to get you the proper communication. Don't do that. I don't want you to be doing that.
John's watching from New Iberia, Louisiana. Enjoyed first 2 rides today with my new Trail Light saddle and gear. We love hearing that. Thank you, John. Appreciate you sharing that. Let's see. Vernon is watching. Glad to have you here, Vernon. Dylan is watching. I'm late, but I'm here. Glad to have you here. Better late than never, they say. Eileen says, thank you for the good information, especially on hoof care. You are welcome. Yolanda says, I feed whole oats too. It's much better than rolled oats. Red Eagle. Hey, Red Eagle. 34 and cold, fresh dusting snow today. Have a great Christmas. Thank you much, Red Eagle. I appreciate that. We got 2 questions left here. This one is from Gina. Says, I have a new mule and donkey that are my first equine. The mule seems to have some pretty good manners, but I'm getting lessons for myself from a trainer who lives nearby as soon as possible. The mule is, let's see. Oh, I think we just lost Steve. Steve, are you still there?
Yep, I'm still here. I got a phone call coming in.
Oh, he got a phone call. Okay, all right. He's still there. The mule is 18 and supposed to be good for an intermediate beginner, but I think the mule, she says she is 18, whether she's talking about the mule or the trainer, supposed to be good for an intermediate beginner, but I am just a beginner. The BLM donkey was gentle and has his own small corral. I leave the halter on and can get a lead rope on pretty easily. He will only circle a few steps or walk forward at best. He puts on the brakes. Is it time to tell her demand? He occasionally shakes from fear when I touch, but calms down pretty fast. Is it time to be firm after having him for 2 weeks? I stay clear of his rear. The TIP trainer advised not to mess with his feet until he leads well. Do I need one of your halters with the knots? Thanks much, Gina.
You don't need the halters with the knots. You need the come along, the kit. Can you see me okay, Dave?
No, we don't. We hear you, but we don't see you. You sound great, though.
What's that?
You sound great, though.
Well, I look good, too.
Prove it. Get that camera going again. Prove it.
Here's the deal. Here's the deal. Use the come along hitch. Uh, that is imperative. There, we got my back now,
There
right?
he is.
Okay, folks. Don't just go to the halter. Whoops, I lost you. Hold on.
Whoa.
There we go. I'm sitting in my car, so
It's an adventure, Steve. You're taking us on an adventure. We're good.
There we go. Okay, got you. Now, folks, don't just go to the rope halter and think it's going to fix your problems. What's going to fix all your problems is that come along hitch. The come along hitch gives you full communication. The shortcut is the rope halter. It doesn't communicate like the come along hitch. Always, always, always. In the next 6 months, every time you lead them or do something with them, come along hitch. That doesn't mean put it on when you're riding. You don't have to do that. But you folks, you cannot overdo ground communication. It's imperative that you I'm going to hold on to it now. Okay,
we only have one more question. I think you'll be all right.
Okay. It's imperative that you use that come along hitch for 6 months. That's what builds the foundation. Now, this winter, you can't use them because of the snow and stuff and cold. All right, no big deal. Let them stand out there. Let them eat hay. It'll be fine. But when you got some good time and you got some quality weather to do it, put your come along hitch on and go over it again. Because here's the thing, folks. Even though you do 3, 6, 9, 12, it doesn't mean that they're not going to develop a habit. They will. You can make a mistake, all right? And they will try to follow that mistake, and you didn't know you did it. And then one day, all of a sudden, they do whatever. Well, actually, you taught them that day, but you didn't realize it. It's no big deal, all right? No big deal. Get your come along hitch out and use your come along work. Do your ground communication. Watch that video. When you're stuck out there this winter, watch my videos. They'll help you out.
Very good. All right, let's see here. This is our last question. This one comes from Dylan. So, Dylan, this may be you watching live. Hey to both of you guys, I have a question. I got my first mule this week from an abusive home, and he seems to be nervous about everything. I can touch him, walk up to him in the pen, but every move I make, it scares him. What can I do to help? He is 2 years old. Any help would be greatly appreciated.
Okay, abusive can be all kinds of ways. David, you and I have been talking about it, and folks, I share it all kinds of ways. Listen, this mule is very, very sensitive. He's not a petting kind of a mule. He's the kind of mule that when you got work to do, you get the work done and then forget about the pet. If you want a petting mule, don't get a mule that's nervous. If you want a working mule that's going to work cattle or get up the side of a mountain, give me a nervous mule any day. A lot of people think they've been abused. Listen, folks, it is their nature. When you look at a mule, by disposition first. Touch me anywhere. Pick me up anywhere. Go out in the field and get me. Go in the corral and get me. That is the kind of mule that says, I like everybody. You'll get some mules that say, I don't want to be petted. That could be this mule here. I don't want to be petted. I'm not a pet. I'm not your friend. But give me a job. I'll do it. And then we're done. So it's not always abuse, folks. Don't always think that because this mule doesn't want you to pet him, that he's been abused. No, it is his nature, and that's the biggest percentage of the time. It's their nature. It's what causes the problem.
We've got Nicole watching saying, thanks, Steve. Rip says, hey, just got in from a cold ride. We're glad you're here, Rip. LaDonna's watching, Joplin, Missouri, 43 degrees and raining. Yolanda says, still no warm weather. Well, it's a few miles. Give it a little bit of time. We'll see how it goes. Ashley's watching. It's chilly in Texas today, but the sun came out and gave me a great day to take my horses out for a nice ride. Glad you got to enjoy that, Ashley. Yolanda is watching. She goes, you got a tight space in the car there, Steve? It gets a little bit tiring trying to keep that phone up the whole time. Steve, you got an important phone call coming in from the North Pole. And there he goes. Look, Ma, no hands. You got an important phone call come from the North Pole this last week. Tell us what that phone call was.
Looks like Santa Claus's reindeers are not going to be able to get him around this year. And he contacted me, and he wants me to use my 6 mules to go around and get all the presents around to all the nice people. Not the naughty ones, the nice ones. So for the next couple weeks through December, we're going to be way too busy helping Santa Claus out, so we will not have this weekly program. But you will all get an email saying that when we're going to start up after the first of the year, when we get started up, everybody's going to get to know, okay? And also, everybody's going to get to see the new website as well.
That's right. We'll send out an email in the next couple weeks just saying, hey, we're not live this week, but here are our replays. You can check that out. As soon as that new website's live, we'll send that out. Hope you all enjoy it. If you notice anything that looks a little funny, feel free to send a message, support@muleranch.com. I want to know those things so I can get it up and running for people who haven't been with us for a while, and make sure it's nice and corrected if there's something that needs to be corrected for those folks. But Steve, it's been fun. We've had a good time in 2020. Of course, COVID and lockdowns and all that stuff was not fun, but it did provide a lot of new opportunities to connect with folks, to meet with folks, slow down life a little bit. Any big takeaways from this last year for you, or anything that you've appreciated about this program and connecting with folks over the last year?
Well, it's the wonderful thing about this program, Dave, is I get a chance to help people out, to show them how to do it. Used to be, I traveled. We had a 40-foot toy hauler pulled with a Dodge truck, and we went coast to coast, border to border. Now I can go coast to coast, border to border, and I can help folks out. Listen, folks, I really want you to understand I'm here for you. So, I'm not really good at texting and emailing and stuff, but you can always text me or send me a picture, and if I can do it in a few short words, I'll do it. But I'm here to help you out. Dave has done just an absolutely phenomenal job of getting the news out, going to Facebook and I don't know what all this stuff is, YouTube, and don't we do something else, Dave?
It's in a lot of different places. We reach about 15,000 people between it all.
Wow. And what a lot of folks don't realize, Dave, is last week you and your wife had the COVID, didn't you?
We did. We got the Rona. We are all okay. Let's see here. Somebody earlier on, I think it was Linda, asked how the family was sort of doing. I know it went through your family. It went through mine as well. But if I recall correctly, anybody that was impacted in your side and my side, it was pretty. Everyone's recovered. Everyone's gotten better. It is not the worst of the worst, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, pretty much. Loss of taste and smell.
Yeah.
A little bit of that, a little bit, Nat's dad he lost a lot of strength in this sort of thing.
Yeah.
Her mom had loss of taste and smell and this sort of thing. But, here's what we got to do, folks. We got to rely on a God who loves us and a Savior that loves us. And this corona thing, it's nothing for our Lord. This here, details and problems that we're dealing with right now with the United States, we've got to remember that our God has control of this thing, and we need to cry out to him. He's the one that we need to rely upon, and he's proven himself time and time again. And Dave, thank you very much, buddy. I appreciate you. Hug your kids for me and your boys. We love you guys, and we'll be back in touch between now and Christmas time, I'm sure.
I will. I appreciate that, Steve. That's absolutely true. A lot of folks are looking to vaccines to be the answer, and vaccines they're not 100% effective, but faith in Jesus is 100% effective. And vaccines will not answer every problem, but God makes every right wrong, and Jesus makes every Jesus is the answer to every question. Even if it is a faith, it is still an answer. And so our best wishes to y'all. If you have any questions about, just why we believe in Christ and the difference it's made, feel free to reach out to Steve. Feel free to send me a message, whatever the case might be. But whatever you do this holiday season, however you worship, whoever you spend time with, we hope that you enjoy it. We hope that you're able to slow down, relax a little bit, get some perspective, maybe have some fun rides, stay safe. And you know what? Just because the clock changes, the calendar changes and the clock turns to 2021, it doesn't mean that everything else changes, but we can make it an amazing year. Steve and I will be back to, we can't make everything amazing, but we'll do everything we can to make the joy of owning a mule and a donkey amazing, and hopefully that'll be good enough to get you through to the next day. Steve, thank you so much, and everybody, thank you for watching, and we will see you next year.
Yes, sir. Blessings to everybody. Email me, text me, call me. We'll be visiting with you. Bye-bye.